Welcome to One Insight. My name is Litvin. I grew up in London and I now live in LA. And this is a podcast for extraordinary top performers and their coaches. You see, I've coached some of the most successful and talented people on the planet. I can see what most people cannot see, and I dare to say what most people wouldn't dare to say. And what I know about success is that on the other side of it, it can be incredibly lonely. You can feel more of an imposter the more successful you become. And when you're the most interesting person in the room, you're actually in the wrong room. Clients who are more successful, more intelligent, and wealthier than you need your support more than they know and more than you can imagine. I coach around insight. Life looks one way, something happens, and the world looks different, and your entire world changes. It can happen in an instant. And this podcast is called One Insight because a single insight can change everything.
Ooh, this was a fun episode. And we went long and we went deep. I'm coaching Shelley Paxton. Shelley's a member of 4PC, my community of leaders, and she's the former Chief Marketing Officer for Harley Davidson, one of the most iconic brands on the planet. And our gift in the world, what we can do for others, we can't do for ourselves. So I work with Shelley on a number of things. I work with her on this idea. Her book is about to be published, and it has a mainstream publisher, Simon & Schuster, comes out in January. How does she craft the funnel for her business? But here's the thing. Funnels, I don't like that word. It's too boring for me. And Shelley's a rebel. She's written a book about being a rebel. So we have to create a program that feels like a rebel for her. I start by putting $1,000 cheeseburger on her menu, and then we play from there. I think you really enjoy this. If you are crafting out a business, want to know what to put as opportunities for people to work with you, then this was really fun. Enjoy. Hello, Shelley.
Hello, Rich. How are you? I'm really good. How are you?
Nice. I'm great, thank you. Looking forward to this.
Likewise.
What had you say yes?
Because I want to play bigger. And I knew that if I had the pressure of knowing that this was going somewhere out into the world, not that you and I don't talk about playing bigger, but I think it was really important for me to say, okay, I'm going to really up my game. And that's kind of the gist of what I want to talk about.
Cool. Well, that's why I like playing with you, because you already play a big game, but it never stops.
And some days it doesn't feel that way. So yeah, this will be a good one.
Well, that's what's interesting. That's what I like about 4PC is that we swim in our own water, so we can't see what we're doing. Everyone around us is in awe of what we're doing, but it's just what we do. So to have a community who play a bigger game stretches us to keep playing bigger.
Totally. Well, and that's the reason I've stayed in 4PC, right? Like I couldn't imagine not having that challenge and that inspiration on a weekly basis. And I'm so glad that I did.
Cool. I'm glad you're here too. So let's just keep rolling. I was going to do an intro, and actually let's just keep rolling and have the conversation, see where it goes. Okay. What would make this a really fun conversation for you today? How do you want to play bigger?
Yeah, I want to talk about 2020, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like we're just on the threshold of 2020, and it's a big one for me because I turn 50 in January and my book baby gets born in January. So it feels like, I don't know how big or small this thing is going to be, but it's going to change my business and change my world in some way.
Yeah.
And it's really, I want to challenge myself to be thinking about like reimagining my business model for 2020.
Nice. Okay.
And knowing that, this sucker is going to be sort of, if you imagine a pyramid like that, the book is at the bottom. It's like the easiest way to access me. And then how do I start to build there in a really fun and creative way?
Nice. I like it. So background for people who don't know you, you're the former Chief Marketing Officer for Harley Davidson. You helped build some of the biggest, most interesting brands on the planet for many, many years. That was your background. Left it all behind because it was sometimes we get to the limit in the corporate world where we're just done. And it was time for you to move on for something pastures new.
Yes.
And we met very early on in that journey. in the last year or so. And in that year, you have begun creating a book that is about to be published by Simon & Schuster. What's the title of the book and what's the context of the book?
The title's called Soulbatical, A Corporate Rebel's Guide to Finding Your Best Life. And it's in essence my journey from making the decision to leave a 26-year career that you just described very eloquently, to really go in search of my soul and nurture my soul and understand who am I really behind all these titles and this other identity, who's the real Shelley Paxton. And it takes you on a pretty wild ride of that journey and my discoveries and my insights, and also allows for some reflection for the reader as well.
Yeah,
and really
beautiful.
For me, and I did find my best life. And so it was beautiful to, encapsulate it in a book.
So this is now the next act for you, and you want to create opportunities for people to come and join you on that journey, ways that you can work with them.
Yeah. And as you know, I've been coaching for 2 years now. So my business will be 2 years old in January. So lots of things happening, right? Business 2 years old in January, book comes out, I turn 50. And so, but yeah, I want to take it. I've been doing a lot of one-on-one coaching of executives. Yeah. And I know there's bigger opportunities for me. Last night I ran a session. I've been doing a little bit more speaking. I just know there's ways to get out there and have, I'm all about impact. You know, David DTK talks about being an impact billionaire. And I actually wrote about that in the intro to my book. I have a vision of being an impact billionaire. I want to liberate 1 billion souls. And I know I can't do that on my own. So I believe this book starts that wave of other people saying, I want to be chief soul officer of my own life. And then we get this movement going in the world. And so I have a big vision, and I'm not really sure what the scaffolding looks like behind that.
First, Shelley, I want to go back to something you said, because there's an important distinction in the middle of that. I want to mess with your thinking on for a few seconds. You said I've been coaching for 2 years. No, you've been coaching for many, 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 many years. And it's really important that you practice saying that. For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching, it was called leadership. And you've been an amazing leader. You said to me once, actually, I wonder sometimes whether I was actually such a great marketer, or I was extraordinarily good at putting amazing people in the right place on teams and nurturing those people. That's coaching. And it's leadership. Because you've been a coach for a long time. Maybe having a professional coaching business for a couple of years, but it's really important you get that, because you kind of diminish yourself when you say that out loud, and it's important that you don't.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. And I know you've had to remind me several times. Mm-hmm. So I've been coaching for 28 years, right? If you add these things together with my corporate career, and yeah, I was a really good leader, and coaching was a huge piece of what I did in the corporate world.
Great. I'm glad you feel that in your bones. I can see that in you now. So now let's talk about what comes next. One of my friends is in publishing, and she said she helped someone create a book that did really, really well. And she said, I warned her before it came out in the world, have your buckets ready. And she didn't really get it. And the book came out, did really well. And then within a few months, she said, I'm full. I've got as many clients as I can take right now, and the door keeps being knocked, and there's nothing for them. And she said, I told you to create your buckets, the places where these people can come to work with you. And if this book gets a lot of attention, and I'm not the guy who thinks in terms of millions. That's just not me. I love this idea of working with a handful of high-performing clients. Your clients are a handful of big corporations, leaders at these organizations. But where do they go? Because how many one-on-one clients can you take? And then you're full. So let's start to think about, let's brainstorm and play. Let's just see what comes to you first of all about some of the opportunities that people could work with you. Don't try and work out about how would I do it. Let's just throw it.
Yeah. Well, I did this. It looks ugly right now, but I actually did a pyramid. Nice. And I know you can't read this, but I'll share some of what's on this with you. So if the bottom rung of the pyramid is my book, that's the easiest and cheapest way to access me, right?
Yep.
And what I imagine being one level up from the book is what I'm thinking about calling like the Soul Circle community. So it's a membership community that people come into, where I come into the community once a week. I provide tools and resources. Basically, other chief soul officers are learning how to live that way and finding each other. I love this idea of a really powerful soul community, and I don't know of anything else out there like it right now. And so I think that could be really accessible and affordable. So another kind of easier way to get with me. Then the next rung up is an online program. So quite a few people, Simon & Schuster included, have said to me, it would make a lot of sense to have a workbook or something like that. Maybe it's an online program, maybe it's a workbook on the back of the launch of the book itself. So really going deeper into these practices, not literally on the back of like, oh, and out in February comes this workbook, but sometime next year. And so I keep thinking that that could be a really powerful opportunity to take people through, maybe it's a 3-month program, maybe it's a 6-month online program. So again, I'm not going to get into the hows, but that's something that's really front and center in my mind.
Okay, great. Tell me more. What's next?
So level up from that. So we're getting to like the narrow part of the pyramid. I've written down 3 things. Retreats. So I've done 1 retreat. I absolutely loved it. I also realized, like, when I say retreat, I love it. And I'm also like, ooh, that's a lot of work. Right. So I've got it on there, and yet I feel a little bit unsettled about that. And then above that, I have probably the 2 most lucrative pieces of my business. The custom bit, which is what I call coach salting. You and I have talked about this, and I think you partially inspired this idea. So this is going into companies and doing like soul of business consulting, right? This isn't me as a marketing consultant, but this is me as a coach. This is me as a leader. This is me as a, an seasoned business person, going in and helping them think about the principles of Soulbatical and what does their culture look like in the company. And it's also me bringing in some of Brene Brown's Dare to Lead stuff that I'm certified in now as well.
Yeah.
So, and that's all custom work, and speaking could be there as well, because that's custom. And I can approach that in a really unique and fun way. And then the tippy top of the pyramid is one-on-one clients. And I think, to the point that you made, it's not thinking in millions or billions at all, because the other stuff is where the scale comes from. The tippy top is like 5 people maybe who get to work with me each year. So that's where I am in my thinking right now.
And when you look at that pyramid, how do you feel?
Overwhelmed.
That was my thought.
Totally overwhelmed,
Yeah.
Which is why it's just been sitting here in front of my computer, because I'm like, I need to talk to Rich about this.
Yeah. So I wonder whether this is a moment to slow down and in order to speed up. And so the first thing that strikes me, Shelley, is what you need to do on your calendar for next year is to block out time for Shelley.
Mm-hmm. Me time.
I take 3 to 4 months off a year, and I schedule it in advance. And that's what you need to do. Because if you don't, you could find that you are in huge demand and you will be saying yes to everything, because that's the temptation. But when you've got time blocked out, you say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't speak at that time. I can't speak on that day. So I don't know what that looks like for you. My sense is it's something like at least 1 day a week where you're unavailable, and possibly 1 week a month where you're unavailable, and 2 months a year, whether they're combined or spread out, that's vacation time and travel time and other things.
Yeah. This is being served my own medicine, because I know you and I have both talked about it, and I wrote about this in a bit in my book, because it's the Soulbatical way of living, right? When it becomes a way of being, it's not simply about going somewhere for a year, 6 months, or 3 months. This is about a sustainable way of being. So yeah.
That's a really good catch. Look, we so often teach what we most need to learn.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's great. Sometimes in life we need some kind of sabbatical, soulbatical as you call it, where we can take time out. And it's great. I have a friend who took a year off and ended up being 2 years off in the middle of his career. I guess I did actually when I lost my job in England. I took basically 2 years out, and I needed it. But most people don't have that. And you don't always need it if you find ways to nurture your spirit, your soul along the journey. So you've got to be able to walk your talk for next year. Yeah. You're going to have to be able to say to people, no, I can't do that lucrative speaking gig because I'm going to be at my cabin on that week. I can't come and present to your board of directors because that week is when I'm going to be in the United Kingdom. Whatever it is, you know, there's things on your calendar that are sacrosanct. Nothing will move for them.
Yeah, a really good reminder. Thank you. Yeah. I feel like I am in this, I'm feeling an increased amount of pressure, and clearly I'm creating that pressure for myself. And maybe I'm making this book thing bigger than, like, I'm just feeling like, oh, I have to have it all figured out by January 14th, which also isn't necessarily true. I think I just have to have some clarity. And the idea of doing all of these things in 2020, it's just too much.
It is. So I just want to wrap that piece around time for you. What I've discovered, I call it white space. I need white space on my calendar. White space is where miracles occur. But there's a challenge with electronic calendars having white space, because what it looks like when I see that day on the calendar, it looks like an empty day. And I get tempted. I'm like, oh, I could say yes to that interview on that day because it's only for 40 minutes at the start of the day. And yeah, I could go to the dentist in the afternoon, or I'll pick up the kids on that day. And suddenly what looked like an empty day has got 4 things on it with a little bits of time in between. And the day's just gone and it wasn't nurturing time for me.
Yeah.
So in some ways, that white space needs to be colored in on your calendar so nothing can go on there. And I may have told you this story before, but it's worth repeating again. One of my clients transitioned years ago from the corporate world into consulting. She's a philanthropic consultant, and she helps massive brands make a lot of money by making a big difference in the world. She said she was like the George Clooney in that movie Up in the Air, flying all around the country nonstop, never having time for herself. And she didn't want to set up her coaching business that it would be like that. So we blocked out Fridays on her calendar. And what it said on her calendar is meeting with my executive board. But only her and me knew that the only person on her executive board was her 5-year-old son.
I love it.
No one ever said, look, she said, I can't meet on a Friday. I'm sorry, I meet my executive board. Well, who's on the board? What do you talk about? They just said, oh, okay, well, let's meet on another day. And it's something like that needs to go on your calendar, meeting with my executive board, whatever it is. That is an easy way to say no to somebody rather than, oh, that's a day for myself. It's hard to say that at times.
Yeah, what I love about this is it's reminding me, I mean, you and I had a conversation probably almost a year ago. We were talking about very similar principles as I was going into writing the book. And it was all about creating the space to write the book. And so what I did this year that I need to just kind of flip the script on is this year, Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays were completely orange. And they were all about writing the book. Mm-hmm. And there was never, ever, no clients ever got that time. No friends ever got that time. The only thing that got that time was me and my book. And so what's my version of that for 2020? Because it was powerful.
I found that 90-day segments are a great way to look at this. That's why in 4PC we meet roughly every 90 days. A week is too short a time frame because I can't every single week take time for me, have a massage, do certain things. But over 90 days, I can say, well, if I had 3 massages over those 90 days, or if I had 2 nights out with my buddies, over the 90 days, I can spread that out. If I had, over those 90 days, I spent time working with my accountant once, that fits in to my calendar. A week, I find, is too short a time frame. If I try to do certain things every week, I don't need to, or I'm overwhelmed. 90 days is a good time frame, I find, for that.
Yeah, that's good guidance. Yeah, I'll play around with that. I was just thinking about it, and then I really got, I think, my brain knotted up in this pyramid and all of these potential offerings.
So let's come out of the pyramid for a second, because there's logically that pyramid makes sense. It's what the marketers call a funnel, and you're supposed to have one. And I don't buy into anything that you're supposed to do. And
I'm a rebel, neither do I.
absolutely. So we've got to look at this differently. How many one-on-one clients would you love to have?
The number 5 keeps coming to me. Like, I want 5 10s. I want 5 12s.
Hmm.
I want 5 12s who I am serving so powerfully, but I don't want a calendar full of one-on-one client meetings every week.
Yeah, I mean, that's been my model for years. I have no more than 5 one-on-one clients. I never have. I have other things that I do, but I have 5 one-on-one clients. That's all I want. And when you say 12s, you mean 12s out of 10.
Yes. 12s out of 10s. Exactly.
So 5 one-on-one clients. How much would it be to work with you one-on-one? And what would the engagement look like?
This is a really juicy question, because at the moment I have a huge range, right? I have clients who pay me anywhere from $25,000 a year to $75,000 a year at the moment. And I need to get clear. It's really good because what it's allowing me to do is work with people I want to do in the corporate space. And obviously that's the higher end ticket. And then work with people who are entrepreneurs, who are rebel individuals, who are paying me out of their own pocket. And that tends to be sort of the mid to lower end.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's actually okay to have a range based on who you're working with and what they need. And you'll I presume for the higher level, there's bigger challenges they face. That actually, if you charge them less, they wouldn't show up so powerfully anyway. Or maybe you get more time with you. There's a mix of all those things.
It is. It's a mix currently.
Great. I know. I love that. Currently, it's 25 to 75K to work with you. Do you have $1,000 cheeseburger on your menu? And in a minute, I'll explain that to people who are listening.
I'm going to give you the honest answer, which is no, despite the fact that you and I have talked about this multiple times.
Great. Well, let me explain that distinction, and then we'll talk about it. There's a restaurant I go to on the Big Island in Hawaii, and it's just a beachside restaurant, but it has $1,000 cheeseburger on the menu. I mean, it comes with some nice stuff, a bottle of champagne and so on, but it's $1,000. I asked the guy once, the owner, anyone ever bought it? And he said, well, in the last 10 years, 3 or 4 times, yeah. I think we need $1,000 cheeseburger on our menu because everything else is then priced out against it. I went to buy an Apple Watch, this one, but I wanted the basic one just for fitness tracking. And I came away thinking, oh, it was a lot cheaper than I thought because it was only $350. And then I realized, oh my God, I got caught because I compared it to the Hermes version, which is $1,000. And I thought, I got a bargain, but I don't normally spend $350 on a watch. And it felt like a cheap watch. $1,000 cheeseburger on your menu has everything else be compared to that rather than compared to all the other people out there who do what you do. And you don't want to be compared to them. You're somebody very unique and very different. So here's what comes to me. What if someone spent a year with you to plan and then actually have their sabbatical? So maybe the first period of time they spend with you is the planning, the organizing, the exit from the corporate world. Maybe they've just left. But you actually curate it with them and spend time with them. So I'll tell you something that I'll tell you about my $1,000 cheeseburger, and I've got a sense it might resonate for what you're creating. So with a partner of mine, what we offer is what we call our Fiji project. And we work with a couple, and we meet for the kind of people who are highly successful, extremely busy, maybe they've got family, don't have time for one-on-one coaching every week. We meet in Fiji for 4 days, and the 2 of us work with them in all sorts of different ways. We meet again 90 days later in the south of France, and we work again for 4 days. 90 days later, we meet in Iceland for 4 days, and at the end of the year, we meet in LA. We don't have lots of time in between because they don't need it. They don't have the time and the bandwidth for that. But they get 2 incredible coaches working with them, both of them, on themselves individually, on their businesses, on their lives, and on their relationship. It's a $250,000 engagement. We only have 1 spot a year for that.
This sounds a lot like what Christopher and I were talking about, still are, kind of talking about co-creating with the Freedom Project. And it's making me wonder if it's time to bring that back as the $1,000 cheeseburger for both of us. Or if not, what is my version of that? Because that's exciting. Actually, that sounds more exciting to me than retreats right now, I think.
Yeah. Tell me about the Freedom Project, whether you're running it on your own or with a partner. Tell me about it.
Well, so the way we had envisioned it, which I still have a ton of passion around, is the idea that it's a very high-end program, so definitely qualifies as the $1,000 cheeseburger. Somebody would come work with us for a year. And the idea would be to get about 10 people probably in this program. This is for really high-end executives, right? This is executives who are probably burnt out. They need this time, and it is taking them from where they are with all of the stress and the burnout and everything else going on in their lives right now, and through a number of live engagements in really exotic places over the course of a year, we're taking them to freedom from the stress, from all the crazy in their lives, and helping them transform, helping them become, more authentic to themselves, less stressed, more courageous, all of those things. And it's a very, very highly customized and unique program.
I feel your energy.
Freedom.
Yeah. How much does that cost?
Well, we were pricing it at, it hasn't come live, but $100,000 a year. Mm-hmm. For each person in the program. I do still have a lot of really powerful energy around that, and a lot of anxiety around that ticket price, as you know.
Well, you don't need to have anxiety around the price, because you just say a number. What you just said is like you run a restaurant and you've now got a Kobe beef steak on the menu, and you've got champagne on the menu. You've also got hamburgers, and you've got grilled cheese sandwiches. And you're saying to me, I'm really nervous about telling people the price of the champagne, Rich. Well, you know what? Some people want to have champagne, and some people only want a Coke or a glass of water. Some people want Kobe beef, and some people want a grilled cheese sandwich. There's no need on your side to feel energy about this. You just get to tell people, here's the menu, here's the price list, and they get to say, I love it, I'm in, or no, thank you, I'm not.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Some people are only going to want the Hermes watch when they go to Apple. It's the same watch, actually. You're actually paying $700 for the band. For me, that seems crazy, but there are other things I spend lots of money on that other people would think are crazy.
The power of branding.
Oh, there you go. So this is just a story. There's something really cool for a group of amazing people who get to spend time with you and somebody else who's just as amazing, that has all sorts of benefits. And here's the price.
Yeah, I think that needs to come back in some way. So help me.
So here's how it comes back, Shelley. It comes back by just, when people say, how do I work with you? You say, well, look, there's a range of ways to work with me. There's a handful of spots on something we call the Freedom Project. You get myself, a colleague of mine, we work with you for an entire year on every aspect of creating more freedom in your life and in your business. And that's only for 10 people. And that's a $100,000 engagement. I have one-on-one clients who work with me. That ranges between 25 and 75. That range, 25 to 75K for people to work with you one-on-one is awesome. And I think you actually might need a higher price point in there too, because it's actually more expensive to someone to work with you in a group now in the Freedom Project than it is one-on-one. And I always want it to be the most expensive to work with me one-on-one.
Yeah, that resonates. Well, I've done the 100K thing before, and I've started collecting my nose. And that scared me a little bit.
How many no's did you get?
Only two.
Anyone
I only ever proposed it twice.
anyone insult you? Anyone hit you?
Nope.
And you didn't die? It was like we're so afraid of getting a no. It feels worse than death, so we don't do it. And you did it twice. You put $100,000 out there twice, and you're still here. So fantastic job. I always like to encourage people and acknowledge them for the no's they collected. That's amazing, Shelley. You got $200,000 no's. The reason I say this at my intensives, the reason I have $100,000 clients and most people don't, is I'm willing to ask for $100,000. The reason I don't yet have $400,000 clients is I haven't yet asked anyone for $400,000. That's the game.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's probably, I think the 25,000 needs to come up too. I mean, honestly, if it's 25 to 75 right now, I feel like that entire range needs to shift into a new playing field, if I'm honest. Like that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. So,
Yeah.
it's now 50 to 100 and something, right?
Yeah.
That feels right.
Yeah. I call it 50 to 125.
Yeah. That feels right.
Look, let's come back to your background with Harley Davidson. A friend of a friend was telling me that they were involved with the engineering side of Harley Davidson. And oh no, I know who it was. It was one of my coaches. I think it was his brother, actually. He was involved with the sound systems of Harley Davidson. And when they were imported to Europe, they had to turn down the sound of the Harley Davidson because it was too loud, because the regulations said it had to be limited. But once they got into the country, they were able to turn up the sound again because it's the sound of a Harley. There are some people who will pay a lot of money because this thing is called or looks like a Harley Davidson. And there are others who would be horrified at that kind of money. Why not get a bike that's a Honda? Because who would want to spend that money? We make our choices. It's all made up.
It is indeed. Yeah, and I even make that reference, right? This is the Harley. I mean, it's all about the experience, right? That's what you're paying for. You're paying for this brand. You're paying for this lifestyle that you become a part of, in this community that you become a part of. And that's what I want to create my business too. That's absolutely, like, this is an experience. This is your life. What's it worth?
Nice.
And that feels really good to me. And that's why I'm really passionate about something that looks like, whether it's an online membership community or something like that, that's bringing more people together to share their stories, right? Like,
so let me slow you down first, because I want to capture the words you just said. People are paying for an experience. That's all they're ever paying for.
Yeah.
So when you ask for $100,000, they get to choose, is this an experience I want to invest in or not? There are people who spend more than that on a bicycle, or a motorbike rather, and we get worried they're going to spend an entire year of their life working with me. It's going to transform in all sorts of ways. Why would they pay for that? Well, because it's an experience. So I'm saying it so it goes in on the inside.
I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good reminder because I wrote about it. I believe it. And yet I think, in some moments during the day, I let everything else sort of cloud that thinking.
So before you go down to the bottom of the pyramid, I want to stay up here for a bit longer. I think speaking could be very lucrative for you. Mm-hmm. Finding a way to go and work with top organizations to speak on their stages about this concept. Without a doubt, you should be speaking at Google, some of the big tech companies, some of the big marketing and branding companies that you're known in. Any kind of rebel brand, without a doubt, you should find a way to get into. And you probably need someone to help you with this. It's time for some kind of assistant who you give a list to of, like, I want to speak at these companies, and that person starts reaching out to them one at a time, sending books to their leadership team. I mean, you should send a gift pack to the leadership team of these companies. Maybe it's not just a book. Maybe there's some other kind of experience. When they open this up, there's an experience waiting for them there. And there's a way to get this book and this story into the hands of the right people. I I've been playing with this. Oh, here it is. It's on my desk. Hang on one second. Let me get a. So I'm playing with this right now as a way to get some of my story into the hands of interesting people. So we've got this beautiful silver box that we are sending to people. When they open it, inside, it's velvet on the inside, and there's a little card in here, handwritten, which says the name of a URL that you go to with a password. And if you go to this URL, there's a video from me. And in the mail, you get this box with nothing on it. And so it's intriguing. And you open it up and it's like, what's this about? What's this experience? What experience could you create for these rebels that when they open this, oh my God, we've got to get this person speaking on our stage. We've got to get her book in the hands of our leadership team.
I love that idea. Yeah, that is where, and it's the same. I guess I have the same philosophy as with the one-on-one clients. I don't want to be on a speaker circuit. Like, I don't want to be on an airplane. Like, I don't want the up in the air life. I've already had that for many, many years. But I love the idea of being on those rebel, company stages. I love the idea of being on, well, you and I have talked about like Wisdom 2.0, things like that, like really powerful stages, and doing, I don't know, 5 to 10 of those a year. That would feel really good, but not one a month.
Yeah. Great. So what you need is a piece of paper that goes on your wall that has 5 boxes on it. And it says, speaking on rebel stages. And you know that if you're speaking to somebody about this, you can say, look, I only have 5 spots available in 2020 and one's already gone. Would you like one of the others?
Yeah.
Limitation creates real value. And it's the opposite of most speakers who would, when can I come? I'll jump on a plane tonight. I'll do the red eye. No, I do 5 speaking gigs a year. So I'm very choosy. Changes the dynamic.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to create.
Yeah.
And that feels right for me because it's actually all grounded in the first thing we were talking about, blocking out the me time. Because I have a whole history in 26 years in corporate America of my boundaries completely eroding. Right. And so this is the time where I'm holding them high, and everything starts with that me time, and I build on. So that creates that limited supply, I guess.
I'm really glad you said that, because what we need for you is some buffers. What I mean by that is this. I took my kids bowling the other day for the first time. My 5-year-old, it's hard for him to hold that bowling ball. So they have these buffers down the sides of the lane. So you can't get a no ball. You can't miss. It's going to hit those, what do they call those things at the end of the...
the pins, yeah.
The pins, thank you. And no matter what.
Oh, that's right. Those are called like bumper rails, aren't they? Yeah.
You need those because you can't be trusted. The way I like to describe it, Shelley, is present day self is strong, future self is weak. Mm-hmm. I know that I don't want to eat junk food. I went to a hotel recently and I was on this health kick. I was working out every day and they had all these Pringles and Twix bars on top in the hotel. And so I was clever. I put them on the floor and I thought, I'll call them to remove them. But I thought, what? It's okay. They're out of my sight. I don't really notice them. On the 5th day, I was staying there for a week. On the 5th day, I was tired. I was worn out. I came in. The Pringles caught my eye. I ate both packets of Pringles and then the Twix bar and then something else as well. And then I felt sick. Present day self is strong. Future self is weak. Present day Shelley knows, because she teaches this to others. Take time for yourself. Make sure you've got time to nurture yourself. And future Shelley will be tired one day and she'll say yes to something that she shouldn't do. And it will start to erode. What are the buffers or the bumpers that you have on either side that hold you in your lane?
Like, what's a practical example of what that looks like?
Well, so one of the things for me is having a coach, someone who I talk about this stuff on a regular basis. So I've got someone I'm checking in with. Another thing is community. You're in 4PC. You've got this amazing community of people where you can actually honestly say to them, hey, I want to tell you what I'm working on. Can you check in with me? could be a buddy, it can be a friend. That you need something, because when the future comes, you're going to be tired one day. You're going to be worn out. It's going to feel like, oh, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'll just say yes this once. And then it's over, right? It's just
That's what I do. And then it's like the cascade. I call it the chutes and ladders of life. And then suddenly I'm like back at the beginning again.
Yeah. We got to set this up now so that we're taking the chutes, as you describe them, off the board. So there are only ladders.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
And coach and community are biggies for me. And those are in place.
Yeah. So let's come back to this pyramid of yours. We've got this now we've gone higher on the pyramid right at the top. We've just put on $1,000 Cheeseburger, your freedom project, 10 people at 100K. We've upped the game around one-on-one clients, 50K to 100K, working with amazing leaders. We've got speaking gigs on there, but only 5 a year. So you get to be very choosy, and you get to put a big number on it. That what did Naomi Campbell say years ago? I don't get out of bed for less than $10,000.
Something like that, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's something like that. I only have 5 spots a year, so this is what it costs. And I think what might come up here again at the top of the pyramid, this coach soul team that you talk about, ways of working with small groups, ways of working with leadership teams. There's something in there that comes up too. You don't have to have the details worked out right now.
No, that's work that, like, I feel that too. Like, I feel really positive energy around wanting to go dive in and help. Like, I think this is, not to overcomplicate this, but you know enough about this. This is the bridge to probably my second book, the idea of the soul of business, like you and I have talked about, right?
Yeah.
So I like the idea of getting in there. I don't yet know what it looks like, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think so. We've crafted the top of this pyramid. Let's just talk for a second about retreats. It seems like for now, there are no. What you could do, here's one thing you could do, Shelley, is you could put it on the menu. So it's on your website. I sometimes do a tailor-made retreat with a leadership team. If that's of interest, contact me.
That's on my website. Yeah, I think I'm just going to keep it up the way that it is, because I talk about that and then future stuff I'm thinking about. And I'd love to see if I get pull.
Yeah. Let them ask you rather than you're trying to fill something right now. Let's talk for a moment about an online program. I'm creating one right now. I'm about to spend a week filming at my house, creating something for high-level leaders who are transitioning into coaching consulting. I'm really excited about it.
And I get to join you.
You'll be there. I'm 15 years into this coaching game before I've created my first version of something like this. Not that you can't do it earlier. It's that I didn't do it until I had what I call a 1 + 1 = 11 partnership. My zone of genius is coaching, creating, and spending time with fascinating people. When I'm doing one of those 3 things, everything takes off. An online program, once you've created it, and creating it is not difficult for me. I've been creating for years. I never stopped creating. We've got a library of resources. We can put so much stuff out into the world. But it's the starting point, as you're about to find with the book. Most people think, oh, I want to have a book out in the world. The moment it's published is when it begins. Well, how do you get it out in the world? What are you going to do with it? An online program is the starting point. And it takes a lot of skills in things that I don't know about, around marketing, promotion, connecting with people to get the word out about this, and then to sell it, that are not my skill set. So I've partnered with someone who has that as a skill set, so we can create this great product and get it out in the world to the right people. My sense is that you might be overwhelmed by this online program because you'd be happy to sit in a room if there was a videographer, if someone was going to interview you, if you could coach some people live and be filmed. What comes next? Tell me if I'm right. Is that the bit that feels the overwhelming bit about how do I get it out in the world? How do I turn it into a program? What does it look like?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no stranger to hard work, and I'm willing to put the work in, but I think it's right now in conjunction with all of this other stuff and wanting to, give my book baby the best chance of survival on planet Earth. that's going to continue to take some energy too. So I really want to make sure that I'm refueling myself, and that I'm not overcommitting to too many things. And it kind of drains my energy to think about it right now, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a distinction from hard work. Neither of us are afraid of hard work, but there's work that we do that will drain us of energy, and hard work that will energize us. I could spend an entire day coaching and have more energy at the end of the day than at the start of the day. If I spend 3 hours in a meeting around finance or scheduling, I'm drained. I can't do anything else for the rest of the day.
Amen, brother.
Right.
I'm with you. Yeah, right. I'm totally there.
This is about having you be in your zone of genius, and then partnering with people or having people who you pay to do the things that are outside of your zone of genius.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm thinking, like, as I'm processing this and looking at this pyramid, what I have, so in between online program and everything we just talked about, and this idea of having some sort of membership community to start building these soul connections, I have so much energy around that idea. And that actually feels simpler to execute. And I feel like the reward of me creating this community and nurturing this community and being present within it, like, that gets me fired up. So I guess that's my answer right there.
Great. So I've found Facebook has been useful for that in the past.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And so a Facebook group, what I would say for you, my sense is, this is okay, let's talk branding for a second. This is an exclusive brand. If you let everybody into this, it will dilute it. It's for, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to give a counter argument in a second. It's for high level leaders. So you don't want to let anybody in. They saw your book, or they've connected a friend on Facebook, or a friend 3 levels deep, and they heard about this. So let me join another Facebook group, because I like to join Facebook groups. There's some way that you curate this. You can actually have a question that people have to answer before you let them join a group.
I think it's application. I mean, not something super cumbersome, but it is, because I love this idea of a curated group. That was the vision. Yeah. And you have to pay money. I mean, it's not going to be $50,000 or $100,000 a year. That's to work with me one-on-one, but I want there to be some skin in the game.
Can you create groups on LinkedIn the way you can on Facebook?
Not to my knowledge, but I'm not an expert either. Oh, that's an interesting idea.
I would look into that, because what's dawning on me, this is my counter argument. The kind of high level leaders who are your people are not spending a lot of time on Facebook, if they're on it at all. They might use it to connect with a handful of friends, but they're not spending time on Facebook. And whilst there's advantages in Facebook communities, there's a place where I've stopped using Facebook. For Project Kairos, my community of leaders who are coaching, we use Slack, because we can have high level conversations, and we don't get sucked in going to Facebook to answer a question in a group, and 5 hours later,
in the rabbit hole.
Yeah. So I wonder if Facebook is the right place for this community. I also wonder whether there is a price point right now, and whether it's not. There's no price point. This is a place for high level leaders to connect and have some intimate, interesting conversations. And the last piece that dawns on me is, it's time, if you don't have it yet, for some kind of newsletter. Email is the best community.
I just started mine. I just published the second one. I do it once a month, every first Sunday. It's called Soul Fuel.
Yeah. That's where
you build really good response.
Community. See, the problem with the community on Facebook, it's theirs. They change their terms and conditions. They lock you out for some reason. You've lost your entire community. Everyone on the email list or the newsletter, that's your community. And I would slow things down and look at that community.
Yeah. So I just started that in October, and I forgot to put it on my pyramids. That's a good reminder. So building my email database is something I'm now really focused on. And that's definitely at the base of this pyramid. And I think having the book out in the world is going to help me ramp that up.
Well, what dawns on me, Shelley, is I think you can err on the side of publishing something more often to that list. Really nurture that community. Yeah. I wouldn't have some beautifully formatted email with images and things, basically mainly text, and you telling stories. And I'd make it really simple. Maybe it's once every 2 weeks, and once a month, there's a 2-minute video from you where you share a story. And once a month, you write something. Make it as easy as possible for you to do it. And I love short form because some people like that and others like long form. I'm excited to do both. I've got a podcast. We've done the opposite here. We've spoken for a long time. Many of my podcast episodes are 5, 10, 7 minutes. I would have a think about doing that with what you're sharing to your community.
Yeah, what just landed with me is this idea of video. And in fact, doing this session, I did a session, an intimate group of 20 women last night, but we were also Facebook Living the session, and it was all on becoming Chief Soul Officer of your life and what are the 10 commandments around that. And I'm creating so much material right now. And I started to think, I really want to be doing more video. And what does that look like for me? So the idea, my newsletter right now is long form. So in between the long form, doing short form video would be really fun and a nice little break.
Well, I'll tell you what I would do, Shelley. I would steal this idea right now, what we do. I would invite people once a month. There's a spot for you to coach them live on video. And the audio can be taken out into a podcast on how to be a chief soul officer for your life. Give people an experience of you coaching them. And then sometimes someone's going to call you 6 months, a year later and say, can we talk? I feel like you've been coaching me for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Give people an experience of what you do. All right. On that note, let's pause because we've run long today. And I think this is great. I really wanted to see how we could structure this out. We've taken out the things from that, the logical pyramid that all the marketers will tell you online marketing you're supposed to do, the things that would drain you. We've put things on that would energize you and excite you. We've made sure that there are these hard lines down the side of your road so you can't go off lane. The time for Shelley on her calendar, and then the check engine lights, the warning lights along the side of it, so that if you've got weak and are tempted by the junk food or this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I don't need that day for me, really, someone's going to be warning you along the journey.
That feels good. And I'm pausing on things that are really overwhelming right now, like this online program that
Cool.
and this year may be a year to start. Yeah, that's a no. It's a no for now. It's definitely not a hell no. It's a no for now. And this year I might get other ideas for, seedlings that I want to plant in that space, but I'm not committing to doing it right now. That feels good. Yeah. And the custom retreats thing kind of feels like it takes some pressure off to create something huge and spectacular. So it's a good conversation to have.
The last thought I'll leave you with is it's time to start collecting more no's, Shelley. Only $200,000 no's. When you've got 50 $100,000 no's, let's talk. And here's the interesting thing: you wouldn't be able to hit 50 without getting a yes, just for who you are and what you do and the impact you have. But come back to me when you've got 50, and then we'll have something interesting to talk about.
I love it. Challenge accepted.
Okay, beautiful.
Awesome
Thanks, Shelley.
conversation. Thank you, Rich.
For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching. It was called leadership. And it's what I love to do, to coach people, to lead people, and to mess with people's thinking. If you'd like more of this, or if you'd like to learn more about our community of extraordinary top performers, go to richlitvin.com/oneinsight.